Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
You're probably asking yourself right now, should I switch more acres to soybeans this year? And guys, that's a fair question. But the better question is, if you do, are you going to actually make money doing it? Because switching crops might lower your upfront cost, but it doesn't guarantee you higher profits. So today, let's walk through how to know if it's the right move for you and how to make those soybean acres actually pay. Hey, Rod here to Better Way to Farm, where we increase yields and improve profits. And we want to say thank you for tuning in today and listening to today's episode. So let's talk about this. I just got off the phone. I looked it up right now. November beans are $11.52 a bushel. December corn, $4.74. Not awful, far better than the $3.96 and the $10 or $9.86 that we had a short time ago. But let's talk about what's driving your thinking on switching from corn to beans. Are you just looking at input cost? And we understand that. Looking at the price of fertilizer, especially the price of nitrogen, has got a lot of people spooked. Are we looking at margin pressure saying, how are we going to make this work? And why is it that soybeans make us feel safer? And I think to a large degree, oftentimes it's because of the lower upfront cost. And I get that. I totally understand that. But we have to decide not just on lower upfront costs, but at the end of the year, where are we going to have the most money left over? Because being cheaper does not equate to automatically being more profitable. The bottom line is this: we've got to know if switching makes sense. We've got to ask the right questions. Not what is the cheapest crop to put in, but what is the best return per acre. So what have we got to look at first? Well, let's take a look at realistic yields. What can we realistically get from a corn yield? What is our 3-year, 5-year average? What can we get on a soybean yield? What's our 3 to 5-year average there? And let's also take into account the true total cost per acre, making sure that we are looking at all of the expenses. You know, in our brain, for those of us who are older, soybeans were way less money to put in because the seed was so much less. That's not such the case anymore. There are a lot of things that we need to factor in as we do this. The bottom line, sometimes switching crops does not fix profitability problems, it just exposes them. What are some things to consider? What would make soybeans the right move? Well, we've got to take a look at and say, what about on our lighter soils? Are we going to be better off to do corn or do beans? Are we going to make the switch because we've got to figure out what the cost of the nitrogen is going to be? I know urea went up outrageously here in the last 3 weeks. We also have to take a look and say, from the simplicity standpoint of operations, what have we got there? Is there going to be a difference in the way we plant them? Is there going to be a difference in the way that we work the ground? Are those costs going to change based upon what we do? And the key line here to me is that, yeah, soybeans sometimes can be more profitable, but only if we manage them for yield. One of the big mistakes we see that people make, we get guys calling us every day saying, hey, my corn yields are pretty good. I'm pretty happy with them. I'm pretty bummed out about my soybean yields. My soybeans are not yielding like they should be based upon what my corn's getting. And the bottom line there is we've been treating soybeans like a cheap crop. If we go into those soybeans and we just plant them, spray them, cut them, and complain about them, that is not a high strategy program. And oftentimes on the soybeans, I get guys that say, we don't even fertilize for soybeans. We just do a 2-year spread before the corn, and we just plant the beans and take them out. That kind of management is going to result in that kind of management results. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at this from the standpoint of pure profitability. If you're switching to save money instead of making money, you're probably already behind. If you do decide to make the switch, here's where a lot of guys get it wrong. And here's how you can get it right. Number one, we know that one of the biggest things we can do is stop the inefficiency of broadcast fertility. Guys, when we broadcast, it's not efficient. The amount that we get back out of that is very low. And this is a year when whatever we're growing, we want to be getting every dime's worth out of that fertilizer as quickly as we can. We know that when we broadcast those nutrients, they're not available when the plant needs them. We know there's a big delay. I saw a video the other day, and the guy was talking about how long it takes potassium, how long potash takes to break down into a form that gets into the plant. And guys, it's a whole lot longer than what I thought. And I already thought it was way too long. We also have to think about what is the potential for loss. Are we going to suffer loss because of how we're applying this? Are we going to get erosion? Are we going to get runoff from those kinds of things? And so how do we shift this? How do we change gears and make it better? Place the nutrients where the plant can actually use them and where they cannot be lost to erosion. When we feed that plant in the furrow, that plant has a far easier access to those nutrients. We know when those nutrients are available quicker that we get a stronger, faster emergence, and we know we're going to get a better, earlier root development. If you want higher yields, we have got to start feeding the plant from day one. One of the things that we need to be looking at is cutting seeding rates, but we need to be doing this intentionally, not cutting seeding rates because we want to save money, but because we know that, number one, more plants does not equal more yield. As a matter of fact, overcrowding equals competition. What are we going to focus on? We're going to focus on plant health. We're going to focus on branching, and we're going to focus on pod development. Here's the fact. You don't need more plants. You need better plants. I'm seeing more and more and more people talking about low plant populations. Some of these guys are talking about going down to 65,000 or 80,000. Our guys are encouraged, and we encourage you, whether you work with us or not, run population tests on your soybeans so that next year you'll know. Go out in multiple fields, and it isn't hard to change that population. And when you do that, bring that population in there, start at some number that scares you because it's so low, 65,000 or 80,000, and run it up. Do 80, 90, 100, 110. Do the different variables. Or if you want to jump by 20s, that's fine. Do 80, 100, 120, 140, 160,000. But here's what we know. A high percentage of the time, our guys are finding that in road beans, regardless of the row spacing, in road beans, they are seeing 125,000 or less plants per acre be the top yielder. So of course it's the top money maker because maybe 150,000 yields exactly the same as 125,000, but then we had the seed savings. We're not saying lower the population to save on seed. We're saying lower the population to get the most yield that you can get. Guys, as we launch off into soybeans and we want to get high yield soybeans and not have a huge amount of money at risk, what are the things we need to look at? It's not a high dose of P and K, especially if we haven't applied it yet because of the time it's going to take for it to break down and become available. But some of the micronutrients are the things that are really setting people up for better yields. What are we talking about? Manganese. We see a huge manganese across the Midwest here and throughout the area growing crops. We see a huge need for boron. We see a huge need for zinc. I'll never forget, one of my friends was out with me in a plot one time, and he walked out and he said, "This is where you added zinc." And I hadn't put the signs up yet. And I said, "How did you know that, Bill?" And he said, "Look at the leaves." And every place that we had added zinc in that test plot, the leaf was bigger around. And that is our factory. That's how we get that photosynthesis. Guys, that manganese is going to impact production. It's going to impact emergence and getting that plant up out of the ground. It's going to impact photosynthesis. We know that boron is going to impact reproduction, and we know that zinc is going to make a bigger leaf. Those micronutrients are going to have a huge impact on overall plant function. Bottom line here on micronutrients, micronutrients are where a lot of the yield is either gained or silently lost. I think that's the worst part of it, is the fact that it's silently lost. It doesn't come with a screaming sign. It may not come with any visual deficiencies. Our experience indicates that by the time you see a visual deficiency, you've lost 15 bushel to the acre. Guys, we don't want to do that. We can't afford to let $150 to $170 head down the creek because we didn't notice, we didn't see a manganese deficiency. That's where the soil test comes in. That's where the tissue test comes in early on, because that opportunity is here, guys, to make these soybeans profitable, and we don't have to spend a small fortune. but we do have to spend our money judiciously. It's really important that we spend this money in a way that's going to get us a return. Another opportunity that we have with the soybeans is the opportunity to foliar feed. Now, why do I like foliar feeding so much? There's a lot of reasons. Number one, we know that first window at V3 is where we can have the greatest impact on yield. Why? Because we still impact the majority of the plant's growing season. Why do I like foliar feeding? Because as opposed to a broadcast program where I have to just blow it out there before I ever plant and hope that I have a really good crop, I have an option. I can go out and I can row place a little bit of nutrients and gamble a little bit of money, and then I can see what's my emergence like. Did we get a pounding rain? Do we have a drought? Do we have problems here? Maybe we don't want to gamble anymore. But maybe that crop came up and it looks really good. We're coming into that V3 to V5 window, and we say, hey, here's a great chance to push this thing. Guys, one of the big things I hear about right now, there are so many phrases in ag that people just want to beat to death, is stress mitigation. This product is a stress mitigator. This product is a stress mitigator. Let me give you a little tip. Everything that you do correctly is a stress mitigator, and everything that you do incorrectly is a stress creator. What does that mean? That means if you do it correctly and you give that plant all of the micronutrients that it needs, that's a stress mitigator. We have seen over and over again how much longer a crop can take hot, dry conditions where we used our system versus where somebody didn't. We see it in test plots. We see it in side-by-sides. We see all of those things side by side pointing again and again that it is never wrong to do the right thing. And doing the right thing reduces stress. That's the bottom line. Guys, that first window, V3 to V5, that's when we can set that plan up to make more nodes and to get then after that be in a position where it should make more pods. We have other times in here where we can come in and fulfill or support that pod set and then support that pod fill. We're seeing more and more work within the industry of foliar feeding later and later and later. Why are they doing that? Because they know that they got the seed size. So let's assume you put a little bit in the seed trench, you put down your micronutrients, you get that base package in, and then you come in at V3 and say, hey, it looks good, let's hit it again. And we gamble another little bit. Not a lot, a little bit. And then we come back in there and we're at that R3 to R5 window, and now all of a sudden we're at a critical spot. And if we've got the makings of a crop, this is the time to put the gas on. If we don't, then we pull back and save the money. But if we're going to make money with soybeans, we've got to learn how to manage them. And that R3 to R5 window is a very critical time where we can come in here and increase that seed size, increase that test weight, and that's what we're looking at. Guys, we believe that soybean yield is built in passes, not just at planting. We believe plant them, spray them, cut them, complain about them is not a high management program. But we believe if we're willing to build this yield in passes, and only spend money where we see the opportunity for a great ROI is a tremendous opportunity for the American farmer. So the bottom line is this. If you're thinking about switching from corn to soybeans, then might I suggest that you think about switching to managing those soybeans in a way that will make you money. And guys, here's something to consider. To some degree, it's really not the crop that you choose. It's about the execution. If we execute correctly, and we do everything that we can within our power to make more money, then we're doing the right thing. I'll leave the decision to you on whether or not you want to plant corn or beans. I will say this, I am not a marketing person, and I'm going to encourage you. We like Roger Wright from Right on the Market. You might check him out. I think he's got some things here. There's some, if we get to a point where you can lock into some $12 soybeans, probably not a bad idea. And sometimes in ag, we get worried about, well, I want to get 15. And I've heard that old marketing strategy. I'm holding for 15, but I'll take $9.25. Probably not your best strategy. But if you're going to go to heavy beans, then please be careful in how you market those. And if you get a chance to get some at $12, probably ought to consider that. Again, guys, it's not the crop, it's execution. Let us close with this. I don't think we want to be switching to soybeans just to save money. We want to switch to soybeans because we have a plan to make money. If you'd like more information on what we talked about, I encourage you reach out to us here at A Better Way to Farm. You can text Karen at 919-5570, and we'll be happy to reach out to you. Whatever it is, we do appreciate getting to be a little bitty part of your life. We thank you for listening, and as always, we hope you're having a better day.